Listen!
Hello and welcome to NVC IGN's Nintendo podcast for the week of June 4th. Today we'll be talking about Pokemon for the first time in a while, so please be okay with that. Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition and a whole lot more. Joining me today is fellow Pokemon aficionado O'Dell Harmon Jr. Hello.
Hey everybody, first time on NVC. How's everyone doing today?
Thank you
Yeah,
for
dog.
joining us. So, O'Dell has previously
Awesome.
freelanced for IGN, and we also met at E3, and he also produces his own gaming and anime podcast. Could you tell our audience a little bit more about you, O'Dell?
Yeah, so my professional gaming career started in 2012 when I interned at Game Informer magazine. Met some great people there. And after that, I was cast out and had to go back to real life, I got a big boy job and started making money. And I used that to finance trips to E3, PAX, TGS, Gamescom, and just all around the world, covering games, talking to people, and just building up my skill set and, just getting better. And so if you know anything about games, you probably see me around. I write news for GameSpot now. I freelance for like a dozen other indie sites, and that's just what I do. Sometimes I consider myself like an industry groupie, like I'm always lurking somewhere.
And
Right
also
on.
joining us on the podcast today is Zach Ryan
Here I am, over here
and
in this
Per
square.
Schneider.
Hello.
Hey guys. And before we begin with our main topics today, I did want to address a statement regarding current events that Nintendo shared on Wednesday. And this is the statement. Nintendo shares the pain felt in the United States after the tragic death of George Floyd, and we stand with the Black community and all those who recognize our shared humanity and fundamental belief in equity and justice. We reject bias, exclusion, oppression, and the violence that leads to these completely unnecessary deaths. We are committed to fostering equity, inclusion, and diversity in all aspects of our business and the work we do. We also saw in a now deleted tweet, because Nintendo doesn't like using charity as a form of free press, that Nintendo is actually double matching its employees' donations. Per?
Yeah, and IGN published a statement condemning racism as well, and we're taking steps internally and have a couple of ideas on how we can help and how we can take action. For example, creating a freelance fund for people of color, specifically at IGN and also at our parent company, Ziff Davis. But we also wanted to recommend some charitable organizations that I think people should donate to. We first suggest supporting the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, a legal organization dedicated to fighting for racial injustice and long-term sustainable change. But obviously, not everybody has money to spare, though. Times are tough, and with people sheltering at home, obviously, a lot of people have also lost their jobs. So there's some other ways to help out. In the article accompanying NVC, we'll have a couple of videos on YouTube that you can watch, and they are donating all ad revenue to organizations that support Black Lives Matter. So look for those links in the descriptions and help out that way.
And I also just wanted to ask Zach, O'Dell, and Per, are there any other organizations you've donated to or recommend donating to for our audience?
Yeah, I've donated to a bunch of different bail relief funds around the country. Like I've donated to a bunch of different bail relief funds in major cities. I think protesting is super important, and I think it's crazy that people are out there getting arrested for peaceful protests. So that's really important to me, and yeah, that's where a lot of my money has gone outside of the initial donation to Black Lives Matter Foundation. But
yeah, I focused on the Legal Defense and Educational Fund, the NAACP, because you can see you can see the injustice isn't just in everyday lives and on the streets, but also can continue to the courts. And there's a big focus on helping people who don't have the means to defend themselves, but also money goes to education, which is super important as well.
Yeah, the echo, as Zach said, here in Houston, I was donating to the local Houston Fund to help bail people out. And to also echo what Per said, any legal organization is great because some people, after they get bailed out, the battle's not over. They still have to go to court, and then the fees and the lawyers, they can really drain you in an instant.
Yeah, even if you get out of something, there's still fees that can follow you around, right? It's being innocent can be costly.
And I thought, oh yes, Zach.
I said this in a meeting earlier today, but I wanted to bring it up here because I know we're talking about something that is very topical, and people are going to come to us, maybe listening to this show and say like, why, after saying that you're an apolitical website for so long, like, why are you bringing this into podcasts? Why are you bringing this into content? This isn't a political conversation. This is about good versus evil. And if you feel like you are getting upset over this kind of conversation happening in any form, any podcast, anywhere on the internet, anywhere in the world, maybe take some time to reevaluate, because this is an important conversation that needs to happen everywhere, period.
And I know that we will be collecting links for like educational pages to read up and things like that on IGN social media in the future. So we'll probably find a link to post to that as well. And I just wanted to finish it off that I think that having the option to just watch the YouTube videos to produce ad revenue is a great way to give back, especially as Pear said, a lot of people have lost their jobs right now. So it's not a really good time for that, but you can just watch these videos, and there are recommendations in the comments of these videos on how to watch these and not be counted as spam. There are a couple of things you need to do. Like after watching the video, you have to go and watch a couple of other videos first, and they can't all be the same videos before you come back to the fundraiser for the video.
Just watch a couple of episodes of NVC, get a couple of NVC episodes in the rotation, then go back, raise some more money, everybody pitch in. You can do it.
And I just want to say real quick, people, the thing I always tell people is, things didn't just get this bad. Things had to lead up to this. And when you deny hearing the stories, you hear people out, hearing the reasons why we got this far, you're just going to enable it to keep happening. Because, the lack of listening, the lack of people caring is what led to this. And you've continued to say, I don't want to listen, I don't want to care, this is stupid. Or you're just adding more fuel to the fire than you think. So take a pause, educate yourself.
Thanks, O'Dell. Now on to our regularly scheduled programming, including the Pokemon expansion. And guys, there's so much Pokemon news out this week. It's kind of incredible. So it's perfect timing to have O'Dell on to help me talk about Pokemon. Zach and Pear, I know you are just as excited as we are to talk about, for example, Galarian Slowbro with the poison cannon on his arm. I mean, couldn't be excited about that?
But I love seeing that.
I got a lot of opinions.
The gun conversation. People want Pokemon Gun, and I'm just like, oh, I guess
we got it.
Yeah, there it is.
Now is not the time for Pokemon Gun. All right, I'm just gonna put that out there. I think.
So for those of you who might be unaware, the expansion pass trailer was released this week, including new details, and it finally revealed the launch date of the Isle of Armor DLC. It's coming June 17th. The Crown Tundra is still TBD later this fall, but we did get to see some new stuff, like the Galarian Slowbro. We learned some more about the the Galarian form legendary birds, the new Reggies, or some like to say Regis. We can talk about that later. And some other things. O'Dell, what was your favorite thing or thing that you were most excited that we saw from this trailer, new information?
Honestly, the new wild area. I was a fan of the initial wild area, but it was very, I want to say, very stagnant. Like you saw building stuff. This is like genuinely like a wild area full of life, different regions. You see waterfalls, lakes, and it's all connecting. And they said something, it was like double the size of the original one. So I'm just like, man, that was my favorite part. And honestly, the people don't talk about this. There are actually psychic people in Pokemon, and no one ever talks about that. Like, that trips me out. People have psychic powers in this game, and like they
talk
never
to
use
ghosts.
them.
It's weird. It is super weird. I mean,
I like that you guys are cool with the ghost Pokemon, but the moment somebody talks to them, it's weird.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Well, ghost Pokemon are different from actual ghosts. I mean, you guys have seen the Pokemon episodes with like actual psychics and ghosts. Sabrina could have killed Ash and his friends. They could have died.
Do you guys watch What We Do in the Shadows, the vampire TV show?
Yes.
Like, I haven't seen it yet.
There's an episode where there's a ghost, and one of the vampires is like, "It's preposterous. Ghosts don't exist." You guys sound exactly like that.
Well,
but now, I mean, did you not see the episode of Maiden's Peak when Ghastly was fusing Pokemon together and turning people into clocks? That was crazy.
I know Zach loves that one. I must have missed that one.
You okay? trying to find the information on the legendary birds and such, but we did finally get some more details about that and the new Reggies. And this is from Cerebi.net. We have Reggie Alecki. Again, I don't know how to pronounce this. O'Dell and I had, oh my gosh, it's 97 degrees where Pear
It's
is
so
right now. I'm
hot.
so
It is.
sorry. You got to
It's
get that
over 100
Flareon
in
out of
here.
your house. It's just heating
Yeah.
things up too much.
Yeah, she's not doing so well either.
And again, please forgive me for my pronunciation of these Pokemon names. They're made up words. I have not seen an anime with them pronounce them yet. So I'm going to go with Regieleki, the electric type with the new ability Transistor. It also has the new move Thunder Cage, which deals damage and traps them in an electrified cage for 4 to 5 turns. And there's Regidrago, which is a dragon type with the new ability Dragon Small and the move Dragon Energy, which does more damage the higher the HP. How do these Pokemon sound to you?
They
Anybody excited
sound
about a
extremely
dragon type?
overpowered.
Yeah.
And it's gonna make I have a problem with the Pokemon company because they'll introduce Pokemon like this and they'll be like, they're legal to use at tournaments. So I'm like, how? They break the game. But I'm interested in the extended lore of the Regis
Mhm.
because I always thought that was one of the better parts when they were first introduced of how you had to unlock them using Braille and like not moving and all that. So I'm hoping they bring back similar mechanics that involves like this decoding mechanic where you have to figure out the riddles how to unlock them.
Yeah.
And they look cool.
I
I
would
heard people say they don't like them, but I like them.
I think they're cool too. I would love for puzzles to be reincorporated into Pokemon. Like we had those unknown puzzles too to unlock cool things. I want things like that. I'm trying to find. I can't find it. I had another page open with the information for the legendary birds, and now it's gone. So just know that there's Galarian form legendary birds of Zapdos, Moltres, and Articuno, and they are different types. I know Moltres is a flying dark type. I think Zapdos is flying fighting, Articuno is flying psychic. I think I remembered that correctly.
Yes, I believe you are correct. I like how Zapdos looks like a road runner. I don't know why, but it looks cool. And the fact that it can't fly anymore is kind of weird because in the trailer it's battling the other three, and it's like I'm just gonna jump really high and like squawk at you. He's like Batman now. It's like you have to bring the battle to the street.
Yeah, it looks like we have cutscenes as well in this. I mean, we assumed we'd get cutscenes, but I'm cool with cutscenes with more legendary Pokemon, and I'm interested in them. So yeah, go check out that expansion pass trailer for yourself and all the new details. They also showed a bunch of returning Pokemon as well, like we anticipated, and we will have a list of that on our wikis on IGN.com sometime this week. So go check that out, guys. Pear,
I'm
is
curious,
that?
how many hours did you guys put into Pokemon, O'Dell?
I'm currently at about 500 plus.
That's a
Hey, wait, hold on.
lifetime.
People are like at 1,000 in Animal Crossing.
Yeah.
And that game's been out for like what, 2 months?
Yeah. No, you're right. You're totally right. But you're putting me to shame right now because I only have 110.
Oh,
That's nothing.
I know. Nothing.
get
110
some
hours.
games
Like
up.
I'm a pleb. Like it's Monster Hunter's fault. Don't blame me.
Yeah.
O'Dell, I know you wrote a bunch of strategy guides for us. Did you ever do a Pokemon one? As well?
I never have.
You didn't,
I've
right?
never
Yeah.
did a Pokemon strategy guide.
I wrote our Pokemon Red and Blue guide.
Really?
Or Yellow. It may have been Yellow, actually.
Oh, man. Does that still exist? Is it somewhere on the site?
Still
Yeah.
there.
Can I go critique it and be like, oh, IGN, more like IG don't?
Oh
It's-
no, don't.
It's terrible. Don't look at it. Don't look at it.
Or do. I think I actually did look at it to make it like make sure it was everything was in order for when Pokemon Yellow came out on the 3DS. So I looked at it. I don't remember what I did to it, but I did something to it.
Out of curiosity, while you're writing it, were you just like, I don't know, you get this Dogomon and you dig and
No, I was totally into it, but it was super daunting. Like when I started writing the guide, I was like, oh, why did I do this? I think I worked on it for months afterwards too. Just creating the Pokédex alone was fun.
oh,
Yeah, those
man.
Pokemon wikis are a thing. They always take months of work after they have come out. I'm super grateful for our freelancers, Marco Koswara and Clayton Petrus, and of course my own coworker Janet Garcia for helping me with that. And it was an okay time this time. We did it. But guys, do you know that there is even more Pokemon news this week? There is more than just the trailer. I know. So
I
this is
suspected.
something. This is something I
Bye,
actually
Zach.
missed by Zach. Peace. I'll bring you back in a few minutes. But I missed this last week. But there are Pokemon mystery gifts. They're just giving out Pokemon for free through mystery gifts. So as long as you can connect to the internet, you can get free Pokemon. Last week was Galarian Form Mr. Mime. Sorry, we're too late for that. I hope those of you who still play Pokemon, were up on that news and got it because I missed it. I'm awful, but there are a few more Pokemon that you can still get, and this one is only available until June 4th. So hopefully you are listening to the show on the day of its release, or else you have missed it. Galarian Ponyta Hidden Ability Anticipation is along with some other items. O'Dell, I don't think this is actually the best form of Galarian Ponyta to use, like having one with anticipation.
No, not at all. I've always thought it was weird when Pokemon get the hidden ability and it's a highly available ability and doesn't actually help the Pokemon out at all.
Yeah. So
I-
anticipation, your Pokemon will shudder if there's a move if your opponent has a move that's super effective against it.
Yeah, and I'm just kind of like, well, yeah, I mean, it's not. I assume they always do.
Yeah.
But the next two though
Are something special because starting on June 5th, you can get Galarian Corsola with a hidden ability Cursed Body. And Galarian Corsola is super hard to get, and its hidden ability is amazing. This thing is a powerhouse. O'Dell, why don't you tell us why?
All right, so Cursed Body hidden ability Corsola is amazing. When you get hit by a physical attack, it has I believe a 30% chance of causing that attack no longer be useful. And if you give your Galarian Corsola Evil Light, it becomes a defensive monster. So if someone has an attack that can actually hurt it, they'll lose the ability to use that attack. I have literally had people force quit on me online because I walled them with Galarian Corsola, and they were just like, I'm not even gonna deal with this. They still had a full team left, and they just quit.
Zach's
If you want to get into competitive battling and you're not that good, literally look up a guide on hidden ability Galarian Corsola. Just do what the guide says. I'm not saying you'll win uncontrollably, but you will definitely stop people who are not prepared.
Yeah, and now you're being handed one, and you can change its stats to your will with items, and you can change its nature with mints. So you're fine. And starting on June 12th, you can get Galarian Meowth with its hidden ability Unnerve. I don't think anyone would actually use Galarian Meowth in competitive battling, so we can just skip over that. But hey guys, there is more. Zach is still just not here. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, guys. We'll get out of the weeds a little bit.
I'm distracted. My poor dog is panting. It's so hot in here.
You need
Hold
to
on, let me
return
open
her
the
to her
door.
Pokeball.
Now, O'Dell is in Texas, where there's air conditioning in every building.
Yes.
I feel like Pear must have air conditioning in his house.
No, they don't. A lot of houses up here were not built with that.
Turn that AC on for that pooch, my friend.
Like, how much? Like, is it even practical for y'all to get ACs up there?
I've seen a lot of built-in units, or not built-in units, but like portable AC units. Like making the rounds during the summertime. But yeah,
coming through.
I honestly, I only complain about the temperature in the Bay Area where I live, like, I don't know, maybe 2 weeks out of the year. So
yeah,
it gets really hot up here in Marin. It does get over 100 degrees in the summer, but it's just I don't know. Like a lot of the houses here were built in the 60s, and they just didn't plan it in. And the floor plan on my house is really convoluted. I don't know how we would add it now, except for like one. You could do it on a room by room basis, maybe.
Wait,
no
so
forced
they had shag carpeting and no AC?
It used to have shag carpets. We ripped those out, but it has like floorboard, like water heaters, like, so there's no forced air or anything. Yeah.
So enough about weather. Enough about the weather, but you know what else is real hot? Hidden ability Score Bunny.
Nice.
Which you will be able to get along with the other hidden ability starters, Sobble and Grookey, through Pokemon Home if you have deposited a Pokemon from Sword and Shield. These are really cool Pokemon, and specifically hidden ability Scorbunny. I've been super excited for because this thing is
It's a
overpowered
beast.
as hell.
He's a
I feel like
beast.
you tricked us just now. Like Zach came back because he thought the coast was clear.
The coast is not clear. Tell us about hidden ability Scorbunny, and then we'll get out of the weeds. I promise.
Okay, so if you remember hidden ability Greninja with protein, it's the same
And
thing.
I
It's just a
do.
different name. You do, of course you do, Zach.
Yeah.
And you remember how when you use your hidden ability Greninja, whenever it used the attack, it changed its type to that attack, so it's automatically super effective, and it had the defensive plus of changing it. Duh.
Yeah,
So now
of
you have it with
course.
Scorbunny,
It's
but
just so
Scorbunny like
good.
has so many more like better moves than Greninja. Actually,
It'll
I'm
get-
not sure, but it's gonna be a beast. I'm
Yeah.
gonna run like Powerball, high jump kick, maybe
Yeah.
bounce, maybe.
I think
Maybe
flying is a really good move to have that counters a lot of other Pokemon in the meta. So it gets the same type attack bonus for anything. So it's all of its damaging moves will do 1.5 times more damage. It's awesome. So anyway, go get that on Pokemon Home. But hey guys, there's more.
You can't be serious.
There's more. Did you know that the fiscal year of 2019 and 2020 was the Pokemon Company's second best year? Is just behind the Pokemon Go launch year. And if you actually look at the
That's actually pretty crazy.
It's
I would
Yeah,
never
that's
insane.
guess
wild.
that.
It is crazy. And if you look at the net profit, like the chart of the Pokemon Company's net profit, it like quadruples the year of Pokemon Go, and then it stays super high, and it's all the way back up all over again. And I'm assuming just 'cause Pokemon Sword and Shield came out last year, Pokemon Go is still people are still spending a lot of money on Pokemon Go.
That
And
blows my mind.
yeah, no. And this blew my mind too, especially considering the circumstances. But Pokemon Go spending reached 23 million in 1 week between March 9th and the 16th. And that's a nearly 70% increase over the normal weekly profits. And that was the week that a lot of people were stuck at home. So
Yeah, well, they had that really smart pivot, right? Like they
Mhm.
made a really smart play where they basically re-engineered their game to be able to play from home. And I think like even just putting that out into the world, like, hey, don't worry, if you're in lockdown, like you can still catch these mons.
Mhm.
I think it actually energized a lot of people that weren't playing, to be like, oh, this is a great way to kill some time while I'm sitting in my house for the foreseeable future. So
yeah,
Yeah,
it was incredibly smart, and it looks like it paid off.
Pokemon Go is always my, I do a lot of presentations to, potential clients and people in the industry about, trends in gaming, where we're going. And Pokemon Go is always my go-to example for just audience interest. Like if you look at Google Trends information, when Pokemon Go launches, it's the biggest Twinkie you can imagine. It's just like the spike in activity and searches around the topic, like dwarfs everything. It's like a year's worth of Star Wars searches in like 2 days. And so we've seen another small spike again popping up during that time. Not and small being a big spike, but like not as big as the launch spike. That franchise is just on fire. It'll keep on going.
Pear,
What you're trying to say is we all live in a Pokemon world.
That's right.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. Thank you.
Pear,
I'm sorry.
I love a Ghostbusters reference. Thank you for that. Good looking out.
Thank you.
And last piece of Pokemon news for this week, a Pokemon board game based on the trading card game is coming out on July 31st. It's called Pokemon Trading Card Battle Academy, and it's meant to teach people how to play the Pokemon trading card game. And it could be a fun thing to do with your kids if you're still stuck at home. And by that point, oh God, I really hope we're not.
Speaking of Pokemon board,
Perfect,
Wait,
Zach.
honest question: isn't a card game technically a board game?
No, it's a
Kinda?
tabletop game.
that's a tabletop game.
Okay.
But is it
Yeah,
then
all-
a board game if you play it on a board? I'm sorry.
Sure.
But it's a
That's where
board
we're
game
at.
to teach you how to play the card game.
Yeah.
I'm not
you-
sure
you-
how it will work, but I think it's cool.
You need a board, not just a game mat, to
Mhm.
be a board.
There you go.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, like
Mhm.
I learned how to play the Pokemon trading card game through the video game on the Game Boy. So
Ah.
this is a cool new way people might learn how to
Yeah.
play the Pokemon trading card game, which has much better monetary rewards if you want to get into competitive Pokemon than the video game series does.
Cool.
Money.
Are you guys getting wind noise on my mic, by the way, or is it okay?
Sounds
Oh,
fine.
Okay,
Oh,
cool.
it's fun.
We're
I
getting
opened
some
the door
cool
because-
hair action though.
I know
Yeah,
the
it
last
is
remaining
thereafter.
4 hairs are animated now.
All right, so that is all the Pokemon news we have for this week. Now, let's move on to some small news stories. And this first small news story,
It's about Pokemon.
you guessed it. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. It's not. It's not. But I do wish we had Brian here to talk about this because Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles for the Nintendo Switch finally has
Finally
a
gets a
release
release
date.
date. Mhm.
August 27th. And Brian and I made a conversation about this when this was first announced like 2 years ago. And it's finally coming. It's going to have crossplay support across all platforms. There are new dungeons and local co-op is to be enabled.
That's super
Stoked.
cool. This is like a really nice plussed up version of a pretty fun game. I think that underappreciated in its time, Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles. So I'm looking forward to
And-
diving back in. This,
again,
this remaster. Oop,
No.
this
Go
remaster
ahead.
looks very, very nice. Just looking at
Yeah.
the screenshots and stuff, yeah, it looks really good.
Underappreciated in its time because people wanted a proper Final Fantasy game on a Nintendo system again, right? And then also just the barrier to entry for multiplayer.
Right.
But yeah, I'm totally gonna jump back in and play.
It's nice to hear that it has crossplay as well. I think that'll be that'll
yeah.
alleviate some of the difficulties that you were talking about, Pear.
Was
And-
not expecting that. Yeah.
And I'm always excited about local co-op. So I'm excited for this.
Yeah.
And also, just a PSA, the Animal Crossing New Horizons wedding season started on Monday. You can go to Harv's Island to participate. Have any of you guys checked that out?
Yeah, and I've
I
done
have.
2 already.
Really? Tell us about it.
Well, I wasn't going to do it, but then my friend told me, he was like, hey, he gives you heart crystals. I'm like, that's cool. You buy furniture with it. That's cool. You got to do it for like, X amount of days. You get all the furniture you could possibly want. I was like, oh, all right, cool. So then I do it, and she's like, here's 11. That's the max you can get. And then you
11
come
furniture
back-
pieces?
No, 11 heart crystals.
Heart crystals,
in which
okay.
you can buy furniture pieces with. But you have to get all the furniture pieces. You have to do it for like 3 weeks straight. Or something
Believe her,
like
she
that.
gave me 9, I think.
How many did
I
you
think
get?
she gave me 9.
9? Oh.
Yeah,
Well-
I ripped off.
I'm feeling snazzy now.
I did
Well,
it. Did you for your design, O'Dell? Did you do like what they suggested? They're like, make it all pink, make it all the furniture.
I just made everything
from the
pink,
event
and then she
tab.
was like, "Here's 11." My picture was trash though, but I guess because I just made everything pink, she was cool with it.
That's all that matters.
I'm gonna make
It's
it like a
color schemes.
rainy room. I'm gonna
Yeah,
make
I
it a
mean-
rainy room with garbage next. See what happens.
That's the secret. That's the secret hack in Animal Crossing is that like your design sensibilities don't really amount to very much in the grand scheme of things. Like you can get to a 5-star island just by putting a bunch of random shit everywhere. Just like put a bunch of random
Yeah.
stuff all over the place. And it's just the metric is how much stuff do you have? How much decoration total do you have on your island? Not how is it placed? Not does it match aesthetically? It's just like, oh, am I wrong? Because I feel like that's
No, you're right, but minus the clutter, right? Like you
Right.
can't put a bunch of stuff on the ground. I did this thing where I had a swap meet, like blankets with things that people could take and leave, but
Yeah.
that actually adds to the clutter because they're not placed objects,
right. And
they're
it's you're
abandoned
stacking
objects.
items and stuff
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
And then
Mhm.
weeds and all of that stuff. But yeah, you're
So-
right. Like it's just the amount of stuff you put in there, the fences you build and the hedges you build. Yeah.
friend of the show, Andrew Goldfarb, he built his island to look like Tsushima from Ghost of Tsushima, the game that he works for now. But he was obsessively collecting cherry blossoms during that event, so he could make all these like cherry blossom piles and use those to line his to basically be his walkway. So it's just like all cherry blossoms.
Mhm.
So for a long time on his island, he just had these cherry blossom paths, but he had a 5-star island because he had so many of them
Really?
placed strategically.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was pretty wild.
They keep
Yeah.
telling me I have too many trees, and then I
What?
don't have
Really?
enough trees, so I just gave up.
Oh, man. Well,
Remove the clutter, it'll work.
Mhm.
we have a full
Yeah.
guide on how to get a 5-star island rating on IGN's Animal Crossing New Horizons wiki.
There you
Who
go.
would've-
Yeah.
But
The more you know.
the more you know, every single time.
I was slowing down a bit. Were you guys slowing down a bit on Animal Crossing?
Oh,
as well?
I haven't played in weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
haven't
I mean,
touched
go ahead, O'Dell.
Yes and no, because so I've been trying to collect bugs and fish, and everyone's like, "Oh, it's the end of March, it's the end of this," and I haven't caught a new fish in like literally weeks, and it just kind of pissed me off. Like I had to take a break from Animal Crossing because of that.
Well, sharks are
it
here
might be
now.
silly, but
You can
No.
get
I don't
sharks
time
now late at
travel.
night, right?
Yeah. All you people out there, I don't time travel. I play it right, so I'm just suffering through.
I want to see that
3
as
hours.
I want to see that as a back of the box quote moving forward. I haven't caught a new fish in weeks. O'Dell Harmon. That sounds great.
Uh-huh.
So, last bit of small news for the week. Just a quick correction for last week. Borderlands Legendary Collection is available on the eShop. It just wasn't there when we looked at it before it was released. But there was a glitch preventing from all the titles being visible after purchasing. But that glitch has probably been fixed by the time that this show is airing. So
There you
don't
go.
worry about it. It's there on the eShop now. Now let's move on to games out this week. And there are two big ones that I definitely wanted to highlight. The first one, we talked a bit about when the really long trailer came out, but Clubhouse Games 51 Worldwide Classics is out on the 5th for $40. And the reviews coming out about this game are actually pretty favorable. Have any of you guys
Mhm.
picked it up?
No, but it's pretty
Oh, yeah,
funny.
it's not out
like,
yet.
It's
But
not out
not out
yet.
yet.
so haven't picked it up, but they're doing Nintendo of America Twitter account is doing like one game per day, basically, where they're just showing like B-roll of like one game each day. You know, like today it's Mahjong, tomorrow it's Moncala, like all these games. And so it's really funny to see it kind of drip fed that way into your like social feeds where you're like, oh, okay. Yeah, I could play some Mancala today. That would be good. So it's definitely working. That marketing scheme is definitely working. And I also wanted to point out no one in the world is as excited for this game as Tom Marks is excited for this game. Like every time this game comes up, Tom's like, "Oh yeah, I can't wait!" Like it's so funny. I think it's so funny that he's so jazzed for this game.
I'm so
I'm
sad we're not in
excited
the
too.
office, so we can't
Mhm.
can't play together.
I
Sad.
know.
Yeah.
It's a bummer.
Yeah. I'm waiting for this one too. I like these. I like well done mini game collections. You know, there are a whole bunch of cheesy ones that came over the years on Nintendo platforms, but this looks good.
Yeah,
It's got a
I'm
cool mix of
excited
stuff.
because it's overkill. I always feel like when you have like the game collections, you have like checker, chess, mahjong, some games you never heard of, and then but like I'm like I want to play dominoes, I want to play blackjack, and then you have to buy like a separate like the second version of that game that has like one more game you want to play. This has like all of them, just every game ever made worldwide, more or less. I'm like, okay, thank you,
It's
just
got like
give me one with everything. Why
it's
is
got
that so hard?
bowling. It's got bowling and tank combat and everything. You know.
Yeah, and it even lets you. It has the same thing that So it has the same kind of system that DS Downplay had. The DS Download Play. You guys remember that feature?
Yeah. Where you share without.
Yeah, where you can share. So this game has that, so you can play with just one copy of the game with multiple switches, which is really cool. I don't see a lot of other games doing. And I think I might actually pick this one up because it has the touchpad compatibility, so I think I can actually use it without needing dexterity at the moment. So cool.
I'm gonna teach you how teach people how to play dominoes because a lot of people think they know how to play dominoes, and then they start playing some weird chicken scratch or 42, and I'm like, that's not dominoes.
Now I'm afraid I don't know how to play dominoes.
That's like I feel like Dominoes is one of those games where like kind of like Uno, where everybody thinks they know the rules to Uno, and then you sit down to play it, and you're like, "What house rules did you grow up on? That's not how you do Uno."
Yeah.
Like,
You.
yeah, that's a good point,
You have
O'Dell.
to relearn every time.
Yeah.
And there is another game out this week called The Outer Worlds, which I'm sure everyone knows. I know, Zach, you were a huge fan of The Outer Worlds when it came out on the Xbox One and PS4 last year, and it's finally coming out for Switch on the 5th for $60. Pear, I think you've been playing it. There we go. How does it look? What do you think?
I love that Pear is bringing receipts to the show every week. Like every week, he holds up his Switch and he says, "Look, I've got it. It's here. I'm playing it." Like he wants you to know that he's like actually playing the games. I see it. You see it.
There are games in there that you've never heard of. Like I bought, what is that? There was like some weird sale where Flow Lines was 5 cents, so I bought that. So I've been playing Flow Lines. Exactly.
Nobody
right.
knows. Nobody knows. It's impossible to know.
It's okay. It's a really simple puzzle game. It's okay. Outer Worlds is good. Outer Worlds is good. The Switch version, as you can imagine, as a port of a current gen game, has some challenges. If you're playing it docked on your TV screen, it is very blurry. It's similar to The Witcher, where like you lose a lot of the detail. I played the game on Xbox One before. You lose a lot of the detail of this open world, and not that Outer Worlds was the prettiest RPG. It's a little bit, it's the makers of Fallout New Vegas behind it. Those games are cool looking, but they're never technically that amazing. And this game, even on the Xbox and the PlayStation and the PC, was like that.
Yeah.
It is, I would say, it's an impressive port in that it runs smoothly, and it looks pretty good handheld. Like it looks good. The moment you dock it, even without having played the original, you can tell this was ported, and it's struggling a bit just with the resolution.
With the up-res. Yeah, I think that you kind of hit the nail on the head there, in that the game has some really fantastic art design. There's some really great like original kind of looks for a space game. But yeah, even on the PlayStation 4 where I played it, there's muddy textures and a limited color palette in places and things like that. I will say that this game, and I talked about it a little bit back around Game of the Year time on NVC, because it was one of the top contenders. But if you like Fallout, if you love Fallout 3, Fallout 4, this game is just Fallout except with a space backdrop. And honestly, like, it's got writing on par with New Vegas, where it's funny and thought-provoking and clever. Really, really dig this game. It was one of my favorites last year. So I haven't played it yet on Switch, but I will also give it a thumbs up if you haven't had an opportunity to play it elsewhere.
Yeah, it's similar to games like Elder Scrolls. Like, if you have the opportunity to play it elsewhere, it is slightly better elsewhere, and The Witcher as well. But if you're into big open world RPGs, I feel like you can't skip this one. It's really funny, and like the art style is unique in that it's just way more colorful. If you remember Fallout, you probably remember the color brown, right? And like this is very gray, and this one is just really kind of vibrant, and like it's got areas that are just completely like have like shocking pink and green colors and stuff. Yeah,
it's got a battle system. It's first person, but it's got a battle system that to me is kind of reminiscent of Mass Effect 2. Yeah, and there was one other point that I was gonna make about it, but it escapes me now. But yeah, I really love that game.
When you have conversations with characters, you pick from different answers, and they're really well written. And you can be uppity, or you can play it straight. And like a lot of the big open world kind of Bethesda games, like you can shoot an NPC who has an important quest for you. Like, it's all up to you. Like, I'd play it.
What I was gonna say is that it hits that nice sweet spot of, it is an open world RPG, but you can complete the main quest in like 25 hours. It's like a mid-range RPG.
Cool.
It's not this huge 100-hour RPG. Like it's really it's got a great story, and you can complete it in a relatively timely manner.
Speed run up where somebody completes it in 19 minutes.
It's insane.
Oh my goodness.
We have the developers reacting to it, and they're like, they couldn't believe it.
All right. So those were the games out this week. We're just talking about Clubhouse Games 51 Worldwide Classics and The Outer Worlds. Now let's talk about games that we are currently playing besides the ones that we just talked about. And I wanted to take this time to talk about Zach and Pear's impressions on Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, because they've been playing it quite a bit.
Yeah, you guys not in it yet?
I never played the original when it came out for the Wii, because I'm gonna be honest, it looked like trash. I'm sorry. Like, I gave Wii a lot. I bought Wii day one. I understood it was I'm gameplay over graphics, but that was like, no, nah.
You mean literally visuals?
Yeah. Visually, it was trash.
Well, I'm really glad that you
played, so I don't know.
I'm really glad that you said that you put that out there, O'Dell, because that will make my lukewarm criticism seem very, less harsh, I think. So, yeah, Pear, why don't we start with you?
Why are you lukewarm on it? I love it. I honestly love it.
Let's start this way. How deep are you? How much have you played?
I'm like 10 hours in. So
we're about the same. We're about the same spot. I'm 10 hours in, and I'm in chapter 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
I did basically, whenever somebody gives me a side quest, I do it.
Okay, so
I will go monster hunting. Thank you.
So
Casey.
I'm opposite of that. I've been doing mostly just mainlining the main story. There's been a couple of instances where I've accidentally done a side quest, and then gone back to like fulfill those, like that. That's cool.
I see.
But
Okay.
yeah, I've mostly just been mainlining main quests.
Yeah. I played. I'm trying to remember. I played a bit of the original, but never really got that into it. I don't know why. Maybe I was just too busy, or I wasn't in the frame of mind for an RPG like this. I'm really liking this. It Odell, you'll be happy to hear that it does look a lot better. And like honestly, if you stack up Xenoblade to Outer Worlds, Xenoblade looks better because it was designed around the capabilities of the Switch. So it does run smoothly. They're cognizant of not going crazy with textures. Like it's a simple looking game, but the world's actually really beautiful, and it's big, and it's got lots of grass and lots of you see the enemies on the map and all of that. It's a good looking game. It's got better music now, orchestrated. You can choose the original score too. It suffers, like, I know, Adele, you're going to talk a little bit about maybe Final Fantasy, but like it suffers a little bit of that from that JRPG kind of writing, where it isn't as slick as some of the more highly produced games that have come out since then. Where like sometimes characters say something, you're like, well, that's the wrong answer to that question, right? Like it's not always that slick, but I feel like it's charming. I like the characters, and I love the battle system. It's so cool.
So similarly, I think the game itself is gorgeous. I think graphically it's really beautiful to look at. I especially like the way that the level of customization that you have to your character's aesthetics. Like you can change not only their armor, but then also like what that armor looks like outside. So like you can have the best armor equipped and then go through and then select a different, cooler looking set of armor with the better armor's attributes, which I really love. And right now my characters look like stupid Power Rangers. It's great.
Down to the weapons. Like if you have a favorite looking weapon, you can now upgrade to another one without losing the look of it, which is really nice. Yeah,
super cool visually. Great music. I think some of the themes are really goofy, but I like that. The battle system rips. Like it is such an awesome JRPG battle system. Like probably one of my favorite battle systems that I've seen in recent years. Like the especially once you get further into it, the payoff, the feeling that you get when you can line up your attacks correctly, like, oh, I'm healing this person, and then I'm going to knock down this enemy, and then I'm going to backstab this enemy, and then use a super attack on this guy. Like pulling that off, seeing it all come together, like it kind of reminds me of Final Fantasy 12 in the way that your characters are sort of automated doing their things, and you can kind of work together to do that. Awesome. What else? The game itself sort of reminds me of. Did you ever play Skies of Arcadia?
Yeah,
I did.
Okay, so like a similar style JRPG vibe is like Skies of Arcadia. It definitely feels like of a different time, and it's because it's 10 plus years old at this point. I think the things I think the thing that I'm lukewarm on is the story and the characters. Like
really,
I think the concept is really interesting. Like I love the idea that it's this whole world on the back of these two giant, creatures. That's very cool. But like the characters in the story are just the JRPG 101 cliches. And maybe it's because I'm 10 hours in or whatever, and the story will open up. But like I oftentimes while I'm playing find it difficult to recall, like, what are we doing? Why are we doing this? Why are we going through this cave? Who is this guy that I should care about? Like I just think that and it's partly due to what Pear was saying. The writing is a little bit stilted. And it's just, it's just an RPG of a different time. And I don't find myself like when I'm playing it, and I think this is the biggest point for me, like when I'm playing it, I'm really enjoying it. Like when I'm sitting down and playing it, I'm like, this is great. I'm having a good time. But I don't find myself thinking about playing it in the way that I did Dragon Quest XI, or like you mentioned earlier, the Outer Worlds, right? Like it's not as thought provoking as the Outer Worlds. It's not as charming as Dragon Quest XI. It just sort of is, and that's the thing for me is like, especially knowing that it's 80 to 100 hours to complete. The story's going to have to get a lot better to, I think, draw me through to the end.
And that's actually been a point of entry that's keeping me from going into this game, because everyone that when the game first came out, people are always like, it's worth it. It gets like better. And I'm like, 100 hours is too long for it to be worth it in the end for me. But you're saying if it's still fun after 10 hours, if it's going to be fun, that gives me hope. because I can't play a game and be like, all right, it's cool for the first 10, it's okayish for the next 50, 60, and then it's amazing in the last 15. That's a big entry fee for me personally.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, the game starts off with this strong battle system, and like, you know, some RPGs can be really overwhelming. I actually think Chronicles 2 was more overwhelming right off the bat than this one. It kind of eases you in more. And then it builds on it, like it expands, right? You get a cool lineup of attacks, and then you learn new ones, but it also introduces all new elements on how you fight against machine enemies versus monsters and all that. I think, I mean, it's definitely holding my attention so far. And it's like one of those games where when I'm not playing it, I'm thinking about playing it. And honestly, the only thing that stands in the way are games like Animal Crossing and Picross that are kind of like my daily check-ins, you know, where like, ooh, catch some fireflies now. Otherwise, I'd be playing just Xenoblade nonstop.
Yeah, I think that I want to stick with it. I do think that given the amount of times I've heard, oh, the story is so amazing, you know, like there is really a lot to love about the characters, etc. Like I do think that it must reach those heights eventually. I just like as of this moment, I'm like, okay, I think I'm like here on it, you know.
Okay.
Yeah,
we'll see how it goes. Well, thank you guys for telling. My voice cracked. Thank you guys for talking about Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, and I did want to mention that this game actually has finally surpassed Animal Crossing in sales on the UK charts last week, which is the first time Animal Crossing has been passed since its release. So good job, Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. It seems like people wanted this game.
I mean, I think, sorry, I know you want to move on, but I think that the Switch is kind of lacking in like a lot of great JRPGs, like traditional JRPGs. To me, Dragon Quest XI S is still the one to beat. But this is like a really great opportunity for JRPG fans to sink into something like really deep and long as well. So
cool. O'Dell, what are you playing?
So I'm playing Pokemon Home because I told myself before the expansion I'm gonna complete the national dex of all 890 Pokemon. So I still have to go to work in the office. Unfortunately for me, we have not worked from home a day. I live in Texas.
What?
You know, very conservative state. I have old school bosses. They were like, "Miss work from home."
But what do you do that requires physical presence?
I'm a marketing coordinator, so I make marketing materials and put together proposals on a laptop.
I
You can take a laptop home, O'Dell.
Yeah, I mean, Pear, I don't make the rules.
Yeah,
all right, let's not get O'Dell fired here.
Okay, I was also once a marketing coordinator, and they said I had to come in the office every day in case I needed to mail something. So maybe it's.
We're here. We're here right now. None of them like video games. They're still like, you play the Mario, so I think we're good on that.
Okay.
Hear this.
So when you're home, what do you play?
So I've been playing Pokemon Home at work on my phone, trading the Pokemon up, and I finally got all 890. Woo, go me, Pokemon Master.
Giving you an applause.
I
mean, I guess we could applaud, but I'm not concerned.
No, applaud.
How long did that take? I'm pretty sure people in the comments are gonna be like, I completed the national dex like day 2 of Pokemon Home. He's on NVC. Okay. I finally did it. I'm proud of myself.
Come on, man.
Yeah. And you should going to work. Wait, hold on. I've been going a 9 to 5 and did it. Well, you had like all that free time. Comic guy. And I've been playing Final Fantasy VII, and guess what, guys? I'm 1 trophy away from the platinum.
Nice.
1.
So you're liking it then?
Yeah, I'm liking it. Like I kind of told myself, I was like, I'm gonna play through hard mode, which I've never done in a JRPG. And I was like, and once I get stuck and like I, lose my religion through cursing, which I try not to do unless I'm playing Mario Kart, I tell God, I'm playing Mario Kart, God, you're gonna have to, you just got to deal with that. But so I made it halfway through hard mode, and then I beat hard mode, and I was like, you know what? Let's go for this platinum. Let's do it.
Wow.
I got all 9 dresses, which took like 2.5 days of playing, but I did it.
Yeah, that was hard. That was extremely difficult to figure it out.
I'm liking it. Final Fantasy is 7 is one of those games where the visuals kind of spoil you, and then when you go back to Switch and you play Outer Worlds or even Xenoblade, you're like, no, it doesn't quite look the same. But it's a very pretty game, especially the character animations and and everything. But I stopped playing it to play Xenoblade right now. So,
and now let's continue with Question Block, where we answer audience questions for our audio podcast. This first question is from Jamie Penning, and she or he says, what defines a retro game? Is it a certain time frame, a certain style of gaming? Would it be different from person to person?
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
Our friends over at the Retronauts podcast define anything beyond 10 years old as retro gaming. So they've done episodes on things, as current as 2010, and then, working back from there. And I kind of feel like that's the same, right? Because if you've been playing a game for 10 years, or if a game has been out for 10 years, that's a game that somebody played in their youth. And that means that it is retro. So
cool. Thank you for that concrete definition.
I always think to me personally,
no, it's good.
To me personally, retro means like probably before 32/64-bit. Like when I just close my eyes and think of a retro game, it's always like a 2D or a Mode 7 game or something older than that.
Yeah, but
I have a hard time.
Have you considered that's because you're old?
Yeah, I think you're right, Zach. I think it's partially because I don't want to feel old, and so somebody saying Myst is a retro game, I'm like, Myst.
Well, I mean, even like we get a lot of people on just IGN that are talking about like in the comments of our top 25 PlayStation 2 games that are like, oh, I played that game when I was like a little kid. It's like, oh, Jesus.
Casey does that to us too. So.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And then the philosophical. I was born in 1990, but
me too.
We're turning 30 this year.
Oh God, don't remind me.
I'm so jealous. You're gonna get to experience flying cars.
Yeah. So they say, time is relative to, a 5-year-old, an 18-year-old is like super old and stuff. And I was like, no, because in my, stuck in my ways, retro had to be like 2D and stuff. Until one day I was talking to a kid and it was like, oh, you play Mario? Yeah, like my first Mario game was Sunshine. And I'm like, hey, you play 64? And they're like, what's Mario 64? And I'm like, oh my God. Like, to him, nothing existed pre the GameCube. Like, not like it just, that world never existed to him. And I was just like, and I had to realize, to me, Mario Sunshine was like, third tier Mario Evolution, but to him that was like the starting point. And
oh gosh,
I could never get over that, like the look on his face when he was just like, and then I showed him 64 and he was like, oh, that's like the original, right? And I'm like,
you have to use your hands. That's a baby's game.
No, I had a little kid. I think it was when like Diamond and Pearl came out, and we asked him about Pokemon. He's like, oh, that's an old game for losers.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was like, you know what? You're not. Maybe you're not. That kid was Zach.
Zachary Ryan.
Call of Duty.
Gosh. And this next question is from Jay Fallen, and he says, since we aren't getting an E3 this year, how about we reminisce on the E3s in the past? What is your favorite E3 moment of all time? Odell, you look excited.
Oh, so my first E3 was in 2014. I didn't know what I was doing. I wrote for an Australian website, and I got in on that. They're like, hey, yeah, man, if you want to go, go. They're called Dusty Cartridge, so I went. And I remember asking people at Game Informs, like, how do you get into press conferences? And they were just like, oh, you have to, like, be somebody. Like, not in a malicious way, but...
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, dang. So I stayed at one of the E3 sponsor hotels, because I've never been to LA. I never been flown in a plane. And so when I was leaving my hotel that morning, I was like, I'll go explore since I can't do anything because I'm a lame. And the Xbox bus was outside, and they were just like, oh, are you the last one? Because I had my badge on. They're like, well, hurry up and get on. And I was just like, okay.
Oh, wow.
So I get on the bus. I go to the Xbox person. They're like, have your invite ready. Somebody runs out and is like, yo, we're behind schedule. Just let them in. Just let them in. We're about to start. It's not enough seats. So there's like, they rush us in the theater, and I'm just like, cool. I'm leaving. I run to Michael Pachter, and he's like talking to somebody. I'm like, hey, you're Michael Pachter. I seen you on Game Trailers. Hi, I'm O'Dell. And he's like, yeah, welcome me. We're going to EA. Next thing I know, I'm at the EA press conference. I was like, okay. I leave EA, and they're like, Ubisoft has the shuttles like, guys, sorry that EA went too long. Ubisoft sent shuttles to take up to the Ubisoft press conference. Long story short, I ended up going to the Sony one, and I was like, I don't have an invite. And then the girl security looked at me with all the swag from the other three and was just like, you look like you belong. And so with 0 credentials, 0 experience, first E3 ever, went to all 4 press conferences. So
That is amazing.
that will forever be my
Nice.
favorite E3 memory.
That's pretty cool.
That's great.
Mine was the Twilight Princess trailer reveal, which then spawned the reaction guys meme. You know, where we took the picture, looking very, very excited. We staged the picture because we knew they were going to show the trailer for Twilight Princess, which somebody had leaked to us and we had already seen. And yeah, like just that moment of hearing, you know, the Conan the Barbarian soundtrack kick in over the trailer, just like with Ocarina of Time, that was worth it. Still remember that. If you watch videos of it, of the press conference, you have to watch the one with the audience reaction because it's so pure, it's so awesome.
Yeah, people lose their minds in that video. Yeah, it's great.
What about you, Zach? What's your favorite E3 memory?
My first E3 was E3 2015, and before the Nintendo press conference that year, they had the Super Mario Maker challenges. The Nintendo World Championships were Super Mario Maker, and just being in the IGN war room, you know, my first day in LA for my first E3, and there was about 70 of us in this war room, all eating dinner and watching the I'm getting choked up talking about it. Watching watching the Super Mario Maker challenges, and everybody was just like losing, like just freaking out and like screaming and you know, looking around and seeing like here's 70 people like me that just like love this so much, and it was just like a really impactful moment for me. It was like really, you know, yeah,
I remember
really
it.
great.
I remember it as well. That was a freaking awesome moment.
Yeah, it was like I felt like I was home, you know, for the first time. It was like, yeah, this is it. This is where I'm supposed to be. So it was really great.
That's
So
what's up.
yeah, my first E3 was actually as basically a promotions assistant for GameSpot's booth. And that's actually where I met Jared Petty and Sam. But after I was already working as a freelancer. But my favorite E3 moment was probably at my first E3 with IGN in 2017. And I'm sure everyone here knows I really like Monster Hunter. I mean, it's one of my favorite series. And Shadow of the
News to
Colossus,
me.
I know, but Shadow of the Colossus is also in my top 10 games as well, and has been very meaningful to me. And my very first E3 with IGN, I got to go to the Sony press conference, and they showed those 2 trailers back to back. They showed the Shadow of the Colossus remake trailer, and then a brand new Monster Hunter. And as soon as I saw the sword, it was just a guy running in the forest with the Monster Hunter. So I was like, is this a new Monster Hunter game? I was tearing up a lot. It was I don't know, just to be at my first E3 and have 2 things mean so much to me show up was just amazing.
Yeah, it's super cool.
Pretty cool.
And I would like to have one more question before we run out of time. Do we have time? I know we have news, games, and more. Just do it. All right. This one is from Nishan Rudra-Kumar. And they said, is Nintendo in their prime right now with the Switch? I can't remember a better 3 to 4 year stretch in the company's history where their quality of games was this good. Is this the part in Nintendo's history we'll remember the most fondly in 2030?
I think they're getting close, right? Like I fondly obviously recall the N64 days and how they were basically writing the playbook for how games are done in 3D, and how, you know, like before that, obviously Super NES days, how to pull off multiplayer. But Breath of the Wild was so strong and so unexpectedly strong, and then they follow it up with like Mario Odyssey, and then you get Animal Crossing. It just keeps on going. He might be right. It might be that prime.
I think that this 4-year stretch for Nintendo specifically, it's been really interesting because they've made franchises that were popular to like niche groups work in a major way. Like thinking specifically things like Fire Emblem, things like Luigi's Mansion, games that like people have traditionally like really loved, but in smaller fandoms than the greater Nintendo fandom. But those are like blown up on like a global scale now, and I think that that's what's really interesting. I think personally that 91 to 95, that Super NES era, is Nintendo at their very best. Like the things that they did there, like in the same way that Paris talking about 3D games, like the things that they did with that Super NES era of gaming is just like they set the groundwork for what all video games would be for the next 30 years in that that short span. But,
yeah, that's a good point.
I feel that this era probably is the best, quote unquote, but people never consider it. Though, like Zach said, they'll either give it to the Super Nintendo era, or I feel like, or they'll give it to the N64, because I think back to N64 and the Game Boy Color. To me, that was Nintendo at its best. I got my Game Boy Color on the go. I got my N64 at home. There was never not a time where I didn't have a Nintendo game accessible to me. And I just think back to the camaraderie of the memories of that it trumps the SNES era, because the 4-player playing with friends and stuff, you couldn't really, another person. But this was like slumber parties just for 64, going to a friend's house just for 64. Literally, like lying to my mom saying, "Yeah, I'm at home. I just got off the bus," hanging up the phone, running to my friend's house, and like, "Bro, she gets home at 7. Do not let me forget," because the last time I forgot, it was bad. So,
Oh no!
Was it a whooping?
It was a whooping, yes.
A classic Southern whooping coming down.
And so, and I just think, maybe nostalgia plays a part in that. Maybe it's oversaturation of video games now because there's just so many other things. But in that era, it was just like Nintendo was unanimously king. Were they better than they are now? I don't know, but they were the best period in those times. Mm-hmm. So
I also think it's hard to know that you're experiencing the best when you're in it, right? Like the idea of hindsight being 2020, or like looking back on the Halcyon days, is something that like I feel like I do that all the time, where I look back on a time and I'm like, God, those days were really great. And then somebody will be like, you just like, you didn't really seem like you were very stoked in the moment. Like I think it's interesting to look back on things with rose-colored glasses. Right?
It's such a crazy company in that, they, like, if you remember the Wii age, maybe we don't recall it that fondly, because maybe we didn't love all the games that were published on it. But like the Wii brought gaming into the mainstream. It was around the same time that, the App Store launched and, mobile gaming took off. And we did a very similar thing in bringing in new players, but with traditional console gaming. Mm-hmm. And then, if you count Pokemon Company as part of the whole Nintendo umbrella, like Pokemon Go was the biggest cultural moment in gaming. Like there's just nothing like it. And so it is really hard to pick like one era where you can say they have their strongest run. And, we'll see how the Switch ends. There might be some big stuff still to come.
Oh yeah,
we'll have an NVC special in 2030, looking back to see which was the best decade in Nintendo. So keep us accountable to that. Mm-hmm. So, guys, thank you so much for joining us, and that is about all the time we have left. O'Dell, can you tell everyone where they can find you?
Yeah, as always, you can find me at O'Dell Harmon Jr. on all your favorite social media: Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, Instagram. I don't have a TikTok. Sorry, guys. I'm not there. And I do have a weekly podcast and episodes every Wednesday. That's Full Circle Podcast. Anywhere podcasts are found. And if it's not there, then I don't know, search Apple or Google. That you got one of those too.
Thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate it. I had a lot of fun talking about Pokemon with you. And guys, thank you so much for joining me to talk about Nintendo this week. I had a lot of fun. And if you would like to submit your own questions to NVC, you can always email us at nvc@ign.com or respond to our weekly question block post on the Nintendo Voice Chat podcast forums on Facebook. Thank you so much for watching and or listening. And remember, this is the only place you can
get the thing.
Get the thing.
The biggest gaming event of the year is IGN's Summer of Gaming, and it's almost here. Tune into IGN throughout June to see the latest and greatest in game reveals, news, trailers, next-gen coverage, and more. We'll be kicking it off with our first ever IGN Expo, where you'll get first looks at world premiere game trailers, exclusive game demos, and interviews you won't find anywhere else. IGN's Summer of Gaming, only on IGN and IGN One on your Samsung TV Plus.